Alerting all point and click fans, attention, attention. Have you ever sat and looked at a puzzle in your game and thought to yourself, why doesn't the protagonist just use force? Why can't I just punch and kick my way out of the bind? This guy right here, why can't I knock him out and steal his buckle instead of having to come up with some strange plan to get it off him with an octopus custard in a toilet? That goat, that freaking annoying little bleater, just punch him. Well, I have some good news for you guys. Point and clicks have just evolved, and we now have ourselves a punch and click game that I want to talk to you all about today. My name, as always, is a worker, and today let me introduce you to Brok the Investigator. Before we start though, I want to give the full disclaimer that I got given the key to this game through Keymailer. I will forever be grateful to Cowcat, the developers, for passing me a key. That being said, the opinions in this review are genuine. Also, as of writing this review, I have only finished the game once and managed to get one of the game's many endings. As usual, I will not spoil any story in this review. Whilst the clips used will be from a good 50% or more of my playthrough, I will not give any story spoilers out, so please do not worry about that. With that done, let us begin. I want to start with a simple fact that will lay the foundations of the tone for this review. I absolutely love this game. Since a child, I've always been a fan of point and clicks as a genre, more so than most other genres. Most of my top games of all time are point and click games, and quite often that is all I tend to stream. I love the humour they bring, the characters we meet, and the heavy emphasis on telling poignant stories. If like me you love this genre, then trust me when I say that Brok is everything a fan of point and clicks want, and much more on top of that. So it would be weird not to start off talking about the gameplay itself. At its very core, it's a perfectly balanced point and click game. So much of the world is interactable. When you can interact, there is always some witty dialogue that character will come up with to describe it and whatever its place in the world is. From background items to actual items you need in game, everything has a description, which for me is a very important part of the genre. It might sound silly, but being able to click on just about anything and hear what the protagonist of the game thinks is always a highlight of point and clicks for me. The inventory itself is simple to use and doubles over as basically your smartphone. Not only can you use the items in your inventory easy enough, but you can switch to phone mode and see text messages sent to you during the playthrough and phone various other people. You can see unlockable content and achievements as you progress. After finishing the game for the first time, you can see the first playthrough summary and all the different decisions, so you can pick different roads and easily work towards different endings, as well as it just being the hub for all the clues you gathered to figure out the small mysteries you face in your day-to-day life to the bigger mystery the game is trying to solve. Simplicity is the key, and having everything in one hub makes navigating menus, figuring out what you need to do for achievements or endings so much easier. Normal bog standard logic point and click puzzles are still fun to figure out, and your inventory, whilst full of lots of different things, doesn't ever feel super cluttered to the point that you get anxious looking in it. As well as the main story, you have many side missions, including just simply paying your bills, so like in real life, you just have a lot to keep hold of. Some items are used in various different ways, and it is rare to throw something away without it being used a few times in game. I really like how something dumb I picked up at the beginning of the game can come back later for some big emotional gut punch. Like normal point and click games, it is also littered with different types of puzzles, from mazes to a floor that makes you play Connect 4 with it, and everything in between. These puzzles aren't overused and are perfectly placed to break up the game a little. A lot of these puzzles are on Graf's side of the story, as you do get to play as both Brok and his adopted son Graf, as he tries to win permission to join the drummers in the Dome. Some of them were actually pretty decently difficult without being impossible, and I really loved his test that included some fun riddles and logical thinking questions that really showed whether you've been paying attention so far in the game. One addition to the game I really love as a fan of detective games is the ability to interrogate people. You will find many clues lying around the place throughout the game, and sometimes you'll need to put the facts together like Sherlock Holmes and start putting the pressure on the people around you to find out just what it is that is going on. I love the fact that you can go into these interrogations with not enough facts and try to force your way through, and whilst the interrogation board is very simplistic, I really enjoyed it. It honestly made me wish Calcat would make another game, Brok or otherwise, set in a detective-type setting, because they really were able to make a fantastic set of stories for us to work through. This in itself is enough of a reason for you to go and buy the game right now. As a point and click, it is perfectly put together. This isn't the selling point though. On top of everything mentioned, this game is a tribute to old beat-em-ups like Streets of Rage, to the point it even has sections like the virtual arena set up like a Streets of Rage game. It honestly is super fun to get into the fighting, and training in the arena helps get money. It is a good way to lose a few hours of your life, and whilst the arenas aren't really there to be done to death and will become samey very fast, it is a nice touch to a game already bursting with such unique energy and purpose. What makes it great is that it isn't just in fights in the arena that you can set the game to action mode. Having action mode outside of battles means the game not only gives you a small taste of platforming, having to reach higher places by jumping around the place, but also that it allows mindless violence to be a true answer to all your woes. And yes, you can punch everyone. There's even an achievement for it, and some puzzles have routes where you can just solve it by punching the person in your way, including a child. The game in many ways gives you a few alternative paths to the puzzles at hand. You can go the old point and click way of solving it with your head, or you can bring out your big guns and just punch through it. Some need some brute force, even just to get through the logic puzzles. Adding in the action is super clever though, because it generally gives you an easy way out of any situation just by using your fists, so if you are struggling, just try punching things. I won't show the post-game summary because I don't want to spoil the branching paths, but just like AI Summon did so well before it, Brok shows you the different paths after the fact that you could have taken. Some decisions in the fates of some characters I didn't even know were in my hands, and whilst I didn't get a bad ending, I didn't even scratch the surface of the game in my first playthrough, which actually lasted me 15 hours on stream. I haven't seen half the deaths I could have had, and left a sad path behind me that I didn't even know I could avoid. Every single decision I made mattered, whether I thought it would or not, so if you want a choices matter game, then Brok really does live up to that. That being said, the action side to the game is its biggest negative. Action in the game is clunky, some enemies are a pain to even attack, and one character fight in particular is annoying in every single way. It doesn't ruin the game in any way, and if you get stuck you can just lower the difficulty. At its heart, it is a point and click game, so you can forgive that the action parts of it aren't perfect, and they don't detract or make the game a pain. Not only that, there is always a non-violent way, and even a non-platforming way to solve a lot of the puzzles, therefore negating the need to do bits where the controls feel clunky over and over again in future playthroughs. As this review is mainly just positives, I did think I would at least acknowledge my least favourite and by far the weakest part of the game as well. A good attempt was made, and they didn't break my enjoyment of it. That being said, the strongest point isn't even the gameplay itself though. By far, the biggest selling point to Brok the Investigator is the writing itself. If we start just with the characters, there aren't a lot of them, but there is a big variety of them, and each single character you meet have their own motivation within the story to be there and do what they do. They all have their own unique personalities and ways of looking at the world. There honestly isn't a single character you won't love. I got so emotionally attached to a depressed robot within moments, because just look at this boy. Whilst I won't go into the main story or even the subplots in detail, every story is much deeper than the Saturday morning cartoon art style it is packaged in might make you believe it would be. Every story, from the main one to the side characters' personal stories, pack a ton of emotion into them, and you'll be hit by such well-told and emotionally stunning stories from every direction. Yes, this includes the aforementioned depressed robot who is coming to terms that being reprogrammed is the same as death, as well as the homeless veteran that can't afford his medicine to live. These stories are super well mixed with the humour that the game brings to it. Character interactions and eccentricities make meeting all the characters and talking to them fun, as much as it can be sad to hear their stories. The artwork really helps with this too. All the way through, the game is beautiful, the areas you visit are richly detailed, and the characters hark back to the cartoons I grew up with. Big, colourful, and full of the spark of life. Whilst talking to them, they have a range of reaction portraits which really bring the humour alive. My personal favourite was Sin the Kangaroo, who just had some of the most ridiculous reactions when talking to him. The game itself feels like a homage to those cartoons we all know and love, though it is perfectly able to bring that larger-than-life, colourful setting to life with a darker tone. Whilst the world is richly detailed and cartoonish, you can see that it is a world devastated by pollution and in disrepair. They don't even back away from diving deep into Brok's nightmares and throwing us into a much darker world than it looks at first glance. I would also be doing the voice actors a great disservice if I didn't mention how amazing their work was too. Everything, other than a few bits here and there, are voice acted by the cast who bring a wide variety of wacky characters to life. Some of the dialogue is extremely hard-hitting, and especially some of the conversations between Brok and Graf, voiced by Brian Olsen and Michael Kovac respectively, hit super hard and are brought to life by the voice acting.
Whoa, you're right. This is pretty.
Yeah, it hasn't changed, no matter how much our technology pollutes it. The Earth does its best to remain magnificent.
It's top quality all the way through, even if I want to throw Tidy out of a window.
Bug. Changing expression. Dead.
Brok himself is one of the all-time greats when it comes to point-and-click protagonists. As a single dad to an adopted son, he has to juggle what is right for Graf whilst getting on with his job. He's trying to navigate a teenager coming of age in this society with the burdens of making enough money to live and pay the bills. And yes, you have to pay bills in-game. It makes for some really great father-son moments with the two characters, but Brok himself is just a fantastically imperfect hero that is thrown into the mess of what is going on without wanting to. Whilst it is easy to upset one or many different characters, you can see it in everything Brok does and says that his heart is always right there with Graf, and it is nice to see the relationship go through hardships. Brok the Investigator is hands down one of the best games I've played in years, and unlike, sadly, Children of Silent Town, which I also played recently and reviewed, it gives you hundreds of reasons and tons of confidence in replays of the game. There are so many secrets, so many small things I've missed, and characters I need to help that I didn't even know needed help to begin with, that I just can't wait to jump into the game a few more times to see where the story finally leads. I didn't get the canonical ending, so that is my big goal now on stream, to find that. And what else can you really ask for in a game? Sadly, that is all I have to say about it. Brok is a fantastic game, and I 100% recommend it to anyone who just wants a good detective game, a well-written story, the ability to actually make their own decisions in-game, as well as a fun point-and-click adventure. As you all know by now, I stream 4 days a week over on twitch.tv/aworker89. Brok is one of many games I'm going through at the moment, so feel free to come hang out if you want. I'll have my VODs of my first playthrough coming out in the coming days, so I hope you enjoy them. For me now, though, I'm going to go and enjoy some more training in the virtual arena whilst eating an ant burger. Thank you as always for watching, and bye-bye.
So, are you gonna tell me?
Please don't talk to me. This may can be contagious.